There is a war going on. It's a spiritual war, a war between truth and deception. Only one thing cuts through all the lies and the opinions of man. It is the truth of an ancient book that we call the Bible. It is God's Word. It is God's sword. Driving up from southern Maine yesterday, you really get to see, and you guys have the opportunity to do that now. You get to see the color zone. Now we're always, days ahead of southern Maine. The further north you go right now, the more brilliant the colors become, and fairly dull down in Portland area. And do you all know that the colors that we're all seeing on those leaves, you probably know this, maybe someone doesn't, those colors are actually already there. The leaf itself doesn't really get colored by the coming of the fall. The leaf on the tree was actually colored green by the presence of chlorophyll. It's chlorophyll is what you're seeing. It makes the leaf green, and when that ends and the leaf is pinched off at the stem and the tree goes dormant, it is the absence of chlorophyll that actually reveals the colors to us. It's true. It's just a little piece of trivia, but it is a thing I marvel at. I do. Proverbs chapter 24. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them, for their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief. The English Standard Version says, for their hearts devise violence, and their lips talk of trouble. The heart devises, and the lips express what the heart devises. It's trouble. So Solomon, writing to his son, says, don't ever envy the evil man. And listen, don't ever envy. You might be tempted to envy occasionally. You're looking at them and you think they don't have any trouble and they got all kinds of money and they seem to just do whatever they want. They get away with things. That's all a very temporary thing you're looking at. Never envy evil men. Don't ever desire. Don't allow yourself to desire to be with them. Their study is destruction. And it's all just a matter of time in life. It really is that way. Things don't ever happen as quick as we wish they would. Justice or payday, all of that. And remember this too in the context of wanting justice to be done. Just remember that God is patient, and that patience worked out pretty good for us. It worked out real well for us. If he hadn't been as patient, we would not have had opportunity. His patience toward us held his judgment off long enough for us to repent and then seek his forgiveness. Verse 3 says, through wisdom a house is builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. All right. There's an order. There, my friends, is an order that the world doesn't know anything about. The order of those three very important things, stated here by the wisest man that ever lived, other than Christ himself, the giver of all wisdom. Solomon says, it's through wisdom that a house is built, and it's by understanding that it is made strong or established, and it's by knowledge its chambers are filled with treasures. The highest valued thing in the lost secular world is knowledge. They know nothing of wisdom. They don't pursue wisdom. They don't pursue it, and they talk little of understanding. They think knowledge is everything. That's interesting because it was, after all, the serpent in Eden that introduced our mother to the forbidden tree, and it was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They had already known good. They knew good, and good was readily available to them. But partaking of that which God had forbid would cause them instantly to know experientially evil. They knew only good, but they weren't content. She, our mother Eve, was not content, and she came to believe that God was keeping something good. How in the world could she believe that the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is forbidden, how could she believe that the tree that would make her know evil, she believed a lie, that tree that would make her know evil was somehow good and God was keeping it from him, that he wasn't good, that he couldn't be trusted. She believed, she felt some things about God, and that she took action on what she felt. And so it went in Eden. That knowledge was pursued, knowledge that God said was forbidden. Now the world, under the spell of the serpent from Eden, continues to act like knowledge is just the ultimate thing. You just got to continue to know things. You've got to continue to collect knowledge. Do you know that the obsession right now to control the world is the collection of knowledge, the collection and storage of what they call data. And the person that has the power to collect and control and own the most data is gaining now the power to control the whole world. It changes through the history of the world. There was a big, long history where, whoever had the most land, or whoever the greatest population, or the greatest riches. There was another period on the other side of the Industrial Revolution where the race was to have the most machines, and whoever had the most machines would have the most power. But that's all changed. And now the race is to have the biggest supercomputer and the capacity to collect and retrieve and have access to all of that information, data, knowledge. Having knowledge is the thing that they pursue. Without wisdom, knowledge is actually quite dangerous in the hands of unwise people. But according to Solomon, the thing that his son should pursue first and place the highest value on is wisdom. Now, exactly what is wisdom? I've defined wisdom many times over the years as I was taught. That wisdom is ultimately agreeing with God, seeing it from God's perspective. Wisdom, real wisdom, is just getting God's perspective. Wisdom is. So therefore, real foolishness is best understood as disagreeing with God, thinking you're smarter than God. And there's a whole race of us, humans, that are continually thinking that we're smarter than God. Puny little, teeny little intellects, willing to challenge the mind that made the universe. The absurdity of it every now and then just hits me, the utter ridiculousness of we live this little moment, most of the time significantly less than a century. And in that amount of time that we're around, and it's even craziest when our disagreements with God are at their height in our youth. We've not been anywhere. We haven't done anything. But humans will act like they've seen the universe and figured it out. And one thing they've concluded is that there's a God, and he's wrong. And they've got things figured out that he ought to listen to them about. He forbids, and they say, no, that's not bad for me. You're forbidding something that I need to have. I need to act on this impulse. And then ongoing disagreement with God is the most destructive way to live your brief human sojourn. It's so brief, and we waste time arguing with God. God knows everything. Who do we think we are that we could just show up in his universe and challenge him with our pathetic little tiny mind? But that's what a fool does. And the fool, repeated throughout Proverbs, will say in his heart there's no God. He'll say it in his heart. I don't think the fool actually believes it in his heart, but he'll say it in his heart. There is no God. Wisdom is seeing things from God's perspective. That's your starting point. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Until you know that there is a God and you have reverence and respect for him, you don't have an ounce of wisdom. It starts with that conclusion. And someone made all of this. This whole universe is the product of a mind, and that mind is great, and I will not challenge it. I will reverence that great mind, that person. So wisdom is the chief thing. Seeing things from God's perspective, agreeing with God, listening to him. Understanding has been defined by some as just responding to everything in your life from God's perspective, actually applying wisdom. And then you can collect information, you can collect knowledge, and you can actually process it. You can actually sort it out. It's not just all about owning the most data, collecting the most information. It's all about the right use of information and rightly seeing all the information. Yeah, I'll quote Ronald Reagan again on this. Ronald Reagan's quote that it's not that our liberal friends just don't know anything. It's just that they know so much that happens to be wrong. It's a great quote. Disagrees with the wisdom of God. Well, let me ask you this one. Why do you guys think, why is it that the philosophy of the Marxist only, always, everywhere produces poverty and failure? That the socialist and the Marxist, they all have a belief. In fact, it's commonly taught in America now in educational institutions that truthfully, Marxism has never really been given a chance. That's what it is. It's never been given a fair chance. Oh, it's foolish. Everywhere it's been given a chance, it has produced poverty and it has produced tyranny. Everywhere, without exception. There's no exception anywhere. Well, as someone rightly said, you could put communist or Marxist or socialist in charge of the Sahara Desert and they will produce a sand shortage in no time. Why? Now, why is it? The question is, why does that fail? Why does that system fail? Because it disagrees with what God has revealed about humanity. It's a disagreement with God. It's a disagreement. Humans are sinful. We are sinful. We will not, like mindless machines, just do what is in the best interest of the big machine that we're all part of. No, we need incentives. We all need incentives. We need to know that if we labor, we will receive the reward. And socialism, Marxism, every one of those philosophies always punishes those who toil and labor by taking from them, and it always rewards those who do nothing and gives to them and destroys incentives. It always fails all the time. But why? Why does it fail? Because it's stupid, simply put. It fails because it disagrees with God. As does most of secular psychology, the vast majority of the psychological theories have their starting point that people are basically good. And if they're doing things that's weird, well, that means something was done to them and they got messed up. Somewhere along the line, they were damaged. Because if they were undamaged, they would all just be, doing what is healthy. And that's wrong. No, we're sinners. We're all jacked up. We were born messed up by sin. That's a reality. What God reveals about us, it's the other reason why all of those systems, Marxism, always produces a tyrant. Because one person getting in that position of power, no matter how noble, no matter how, I don't care what Fidel Castro might have started out with the sincerest of good intentions for the people of that island, Cuba. But once he was in the position of power, it corrupted him because we're corrupted, because we're sinners, we're flawed. That is what Scripture reveals about us. That's why every time we disagree with God, there are consequences. Despite all of the happy utopian dreams that Marxists and communists and socialists always have, and even those who are involved in that movement who with all sincerity think, we're going to do the world good, we're going to create a good world. Give them the power they're asking for, and they'll quit creating a good world, and they'll start actually consuming. They'll start living like Gavin Newsom and making all of these rules and laws, no regard to the welfare of the people, applying none of those to himself. You see the classes that are already forming here in America with leaders like Newsom and others who all of them say, you just do what we tell you. Or Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. You're doing this, whenever I drop these names, it dates the teaching. So I try not to do it much. It's better to just talk about the petty little tyrant mayor who says, none of you can go to a hair salon, they're all closed. But there will be one open for me around because I'm the face of this city. That's a quote. Or if you're, Nancy Pelosi, care nothing for the misery of the peasants living under the tyranny of all your restrictions, but those restrictions don't apply to you. Or if you're the husband of Gretchen Whitmer, you can pull some levers, you can pull some strings. And the classes, you see them, they're forming in America. That's not the founders' intention. Our nation's founders actually started out with an agreement with God. A revival that had happened here. The Protestant Reformation caused people to come here looking for religious freedom. The Great Awakening had happened here in colonial America. And everybody was biblically literate. It's the one thing that they were committed to knowing more than anything else. The one thing that they would use the only book in many houses was the Bible, from which they taught their children to read. Now, it was those people that formed this system that acknowledged the sinfulness of humanity. That's the reason why that simple agreement with the revelation of God produced the greatest thing, the most powerful, the most wealthy nation that has ever existed on this planet and in human history. And despite what you've been told in school, it was the best thing going. There was no place better anywhere. One time I received this really hateful, threatening email at the church from a young man, which I found out was up in Dover, Guilford area. And you Christians and your missionaries and you destroy cultures. He was full of hate for Christians. And he was sure that we're the ones messing up the world. And I actually reached out to him. I can't remember his name now, but I actually responded to his hate. And I asked him if we could get together and he could state his case for me. I'd like to meet him. To my amazement, he actually came, sat with me in my office. And I was committed to saying nothing, to confronting him with nothing. I just wanted to ask him questions, and I did. And I said, well, first of all, tell me where you've been. He hadn't been anywhere. He hasn't left Penobscot County. All right, but you got the world and history of the world all figured out. Tell me where this utopia was that Christians went there and destroyed. I want to know about this. Tell me where it was. I had a whole list of questions just asking him. Just make your case for me. Because I've been around. I've seen some things in this world. I've seen some things. I've studied history extensively. Tell me where this happy utopia was, where people were at one with the planet. They were at one, tell me. Because the truth is, here in North America, just like everywhere else where sinful humans came together to form something, they were cutting hearts out and eating them. They owned slaves. They conquered and they enslaved. It's sinful humanity that does such things. And it's always been that way, everywhere. Tell me where, and I'm just asking, and he's like, wow. He didn't have any answers for my questions. And I asked him, well, could it be that your hate for me and us is illegitimate? He said, you really don't have a case? We actually did leave as friends that day. Well, I should tell you, when he came in, I'm looking at his pockets. I didn't frisk him. But the tone and the hatred is like the kind that you expect somebody to come in and just pull out a gun and just, shoot sideways, And, which is stupid. right? But he ain't nothing like that. He was just a scrawny little guy, and it was just me and him alone sitting there. And we had a great talk. When it comes to what really matters, wisdom, agreeing with God. Wisdom first, understanding second, and knowledge is in third place. By wisdom, the house is built. By understanding, it's actually established. By knowledge, it's filled with treasure. Wisdom is what matters. Going on from that, in verse 5, he writes, a wise man is strong. A man of knowledge increaseth strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there's safety. So the multitude of advisors, getting an accurate picture of situations that makes it possible for you to actually strategize. Wisdom is better. All right, think about this for a second. I'm all into strength, fellas. I think, a guy ought to have some physical strength. You ought to do what you can to maintain it, or do what you can to increase it. But only a fool does all the grunt work. A really wise man has a strong dude on his payroll doing the lifting. Yeah, pick that up. Okay, put that down over there. I mean, that's how it works, because wisdom is superior to strength. Wisdom is superior. I've always been blessed when I was younger and growing up, when you're doing something with brute strength and like killing yourself to do it, and then some old man comes along and shows you a really easy way, right, with little minimal effort. Wisdom is greater than strength. Think about this. There's no Goliath. Who's Goliath? All right, he's the champion of Gath. He wasn't the king of Gath. Most of the giants were just grunts to somebody who was pulling the strings and telling them who to go fight. Wisdom is greater, and therefore wisdom ought to be our priority. I was grateful that I happened upon this, because when I was a kid, I was really sick of being scrawny. I hated being a skinny kid. Hated it, and I was obsessed with working out and building muscle. But at the same time that obsession started, I started reading Proverbs and finding these statements about wisdom, and I started making notes to myself about it. And I would put these in my view, that wisdom is what really matters. And all you're getting, get wisdom and get understanding. And I realized it was the thing I was supposed to be really obsessed for. I'm grateful for that message. But wisdom here in verse 7 is too high for a fool. Wisdom's too high for a fool. It's not like it's not accessible, but it's too high for him. Too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. All right, so what is that all about? He doesn't open his mouth in the gate. In the ancient world, the gate was the courthouse. And the fool, even if he's in trouble, he's going to be quiet, right? You got no answer, no defense. But nobody's asking him to judge a matter. Nobody's coming to the fool and say, here, help us settle this dispute. Be one of our judges. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. Verse 8, he that deviseth to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. So the person that actually does that planning is going to ultimately get a reputation from what he does. Let me say this again. The person who devises to do evil shall be called. What do you want to be called? Because what you're going to be called is going to be based on what you do. English Standard Version, whoever plans to do evil will be called a schemer. Do you want to be called a schemer? No, nobody does. Don't plan to do evil. But what we do is going to get us a name. People are going to call you that. People are going to go, thief. They're going to go, show off. And what we do earns us a name. So let's make it virtuous. Let it be that we actually plan and do what is right. And people will say, trustworthy, valuable. Verse 9 says, the thought of foolishness is sin. How about that one for a second? The thought of foolishness it's a sin. to be stupid. Do you understand this? That it is actually wrong. The thought of foolishness is sin. All right, so you can, English Standard Version, it is the devising of folly that is sin. The scoffer is an abomination to mankind. But I like the King James Version on this one. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. What's an abomination again? Something that's really offensive. That's what an abomination is. It's offensive. Anything that is so vile that you smell it and makes you retch and want to throw up, that's an abomination. And that's exactly what a scorner is to people, to mankind. Verse 10 says, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. So the adversity is what actually reveals the weakness. It doesn't produce it. Adversity actually serves to reveal the weakness. If your strength fails you in a time of adversity, then the problem is your strength was small. It's sort of a backdoor way of saying that when adversity comes, that's usually when we muster some strength. The time that we're weakest is when there is no adversity and everything's really easy. That's when we turn into the jellyfish or the jellyback. Adversity is usually the kind of thing that when it comes on, we find ourselves rising up to meet it, to meet the challenge. Your strength fails in a time of adversity, your strength is small. Here's a quote from Patrick Henry, one of our nation's founders. You remember him? Give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry. On the subject of manhood, he wrote, adversity toughens manhood. The characteristics of the good or the great man is not that he's been exempt from the evils of life, but that he has surmounted them. He hasn't been exempt, but he's been able to overcome them. Well, we have all experienced our strength failing, and we've all experienced that. We're human. We've got our limitations. We've discovered our strength failing. When that happens, two things need to happen. One, we need to admit it and look to the one who is all-powerful. And two, we need to grow stronger with his help. We need to grow stronger. Strength is something you can grow. So if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. That's your problem. You had small strength, and adversity just revealed it. Isn't it interesting what some people call adversity? And what other people, looking at that adversity would call that daily living. What's adversity to one person? This is so hard. It's adversity. I don't know. What's the matter? Why are you going back to drink? Oh, I just got all this stress. Well, that drinking's going to help it. You're going to multiply your stress. What you got, you're calling stress. Tell me about your stress. Ooh, they start going on. You go, oh, you're describing life, normal stuff. No, you don't need an anesthetic, so stop it. Face the adversity. Lean into it. You don't need a pill. You don't need a liquid. You don't need something to numb you. Stop it. That's the wimpiest thing that a human can do. So when anybody messes up, and we're talking, don't even start with me. Go, I just had all this stress. Just don't start. Don't even say that to me. I just had all this stress. I had stress, okay? No, just admit, I failed. I chose this over that, and I was stupid. But don't start with that. I had stress. Why are you smoking? All the stress. And in verse 11, if thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou forbear, if you fail to do it, if you forbear. It's a hard way the King James Version has this. English Standard Version says plainly, rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. So, but if you forbear, if you fail to hold them back, if you fail to get involved, well, you've heard those awful stories, haven't you? Of people witnessing crimes and doing nothing. A woman being victimized and people saying, well, I didn't want, it wasn't my problem, I didn't want to get involved. That is extremely wicked, extremely sinful. And so it says here, if you say, verse 12, behold, we knew it not. You can claim ignorance. The thing is, doth not he that pondereth the heart consider it, and he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? Doesn't he know that you knew those people were heading toward destruction and you did nothing? He knows what you knew. You can't cop ignorance with God. You can do that with a human court. You can do that with a human law enforcer. But you can't do it with God. You can't say, I didn't know. I didn't even know. God's like, I see, I know what you knew. Doth not he that pondereth the heart consider it, and he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? So the sin of omission is a great sin. We have a tendency to only think of sin as the things that we commit, the sins of commission, that I've done something I'm not supposed to do. That's only half the sin, guys. The other whole half the sin is the good that we have failed to do. The willingness to sacrifice ourselves or to put ourselves in trouble or to create discomfort. The willingness to upset someone because they don't want to hear you telling them, listen, you're on your way to destruction. You're on your way to death. I have to tell you, I love you. No, people will, in fact. They will not always appreciate it. They will take offense. But should that stop you? And David sent me a great quote this afternoon from J.C. Riley. True Christianity will cost a man the favor of the world. He must be content to be thought ill of by man if he pleases God. He must count it no strange thing to be mocked, ridiculed, slandered, and persecuted, and even hated. And if you actually stand in front of someone and go, you're heading toward destruction, you're heading toward a devil's hell, your action, however loving, will not always be appreciated. It will be, you will offend them, and they'll hate you. So what? Do you not do it because, well, I just don't want to create discomfort? I just like to avoid religion and politics. That's cowardly. That's really cowardly. Can't we just all have a good Thanksgiving meal together? No. Is that really what matters, is a good time? Well, what if you go from a good time and half of those people go straight to the devil's hell? It is our obligation to actually stand in the way and do something. We've got to try. We have to make an effort. So again, the thing that we're called to do is rescue those who are being taken away to death. The whole generation of the German Christian church, when the Nazis took over, failed to do this. And there are even the legendary testimonies of churches on Sundays singing louder to not hear the screams of all of the people heading to the concentration camps, all the Jews screaming in all those cars, in the trains behind the church. Just sing louder. And all of them continually quoting Romans 13. We have an obligation, and we have to take a stand. And none of us can cop ignorance and go, I didn't know. If thou sayest, behold, we knew it not. Don't try that with God. Verse 13 says, my son, eat thou honey because it's good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to thy taste. Eat honey. Pretty simple proverb, isn't it? Don't even really need to expound on that. You should eat honey. Why? Because it's good. The drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. But can I make one thing connected to that? That the goodness of God and the genius of our Creator is that in a world full of plants that produce fruit, almost exclusively, those ones that are sweet are actually good for you. And there's hardly a sweet poison in all of the creation. There's only a few. The poisons are bitter. Bitter like the poison that many here have ingested, and you had to acquire a taste for it. You got to where you really liked the taste. But you associated the taste of that poison, alcohol, with the euphoria that would be created as your brain was being scrambled. The other day at a church camp lodge up in the mountains of Montana, I went through the church, they didn't actually do church camp food. And if you guys done church camp food, it's usually a little teeny square of lasagna, like some kind of Weight Watchers thing. It can be real sad. These dear people at Calvary Chapel Bozeman, they put together a crew of ladies who cooked. And they were there for the whole weekend just producing food. It was amazing. And I loaded up, and I made sure I loaded up, with the beef, and I'm going down through the line, thanking them, commending, complimenting. And I made sure to get me some salad. I'm going to start with a salad. I got my salad, and went over and sat down. Eric Meyerson was sitting directly across from me. He witnessed me. My first bite was a rotten tomato. And it was so bad. Oh my, it was burned. It was so rotten. I put that in my mouth, and it was one of those cherry tomatoes, and it burned, and it was repulsive. That, my friends, is fermentation. That's when that which is sweet is made rotten, and the corruption takes the sweet away, produces this nasty taste. I mean, I thought when I spewed it, I thought, wow, how kind of the Lord to make it like that, so that when the fruit is rotten, it's not tasting good anymore. How kind of the Lord. I mean, it's a simple thing that I marvel at. I'm like, wow. I spewed that out and went for another tomato that was fine. King Graves, what's your point? Well, you can't be ingesting poisons. It's not sweet. It's not sweet. You acquire a taste for the things that are really not at all sweet. People can get to the point where they develop a taste for something but in nature, the design of God who knows you and who equipped you, he made sweet a good thing. It's like a gauge, it's like a meter. And that was the kindness of the Lord. So eat honey. It's good. There you have it. Verse 14. Connected to that, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul. When thou hast found it, then there shall be a reward, and thy expectation shall not be cut off. There's a payoff. There's a sweetness. All right, maybe you don't notice it at first, but real wisdom is sweet. The knowledge of wisdom, it'll be to your soul like honey. It'll be connected to, it's the benefits of it. It's the benefits of wisdom applied. They're like the reward in themselves. All the benefits of wisdom. It produces such things as freedom and prosperity and strength and power and influence. It's an amazing thing. Your expectation shall not be cut off. That 14th verse ends, but your hope will not be cut off. Verse 15, lay not wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous, and spoil not his resting place, for a just man falleth 7 times. 7 in biblical language always represents completion. It's the number of completion or perfection. The righteous, he falleth 7 times. The just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Now there's something for you. What is the success? But somebody who gets up one more time than what he falls. It's a statement about perseverance. That is connected to righteousness or right living. If you're going to be right, you got to persevere. And you got to keep getting back up. This is the origin of that old expression, you can't keep a good man down. You can't keep him down. You can't keep a good woman down. She will get back up again. So you're wasting your time trying to put them down. They're going to get back up. Now, on the subject of putting down and falling, Solomon says in verse 17, remember, he said, rejoice not when thy enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth, lest the Lord see it and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. And I want you to think about that. It's that plain. If God sees you gloating over something that he's brought about, the falling of the wicked man, and you're gloating, God may actually stop the punishment. God may actually withdraw that, because that's not good for you to be gloating. We're supposed to love mercy. It's plainly stated, right? Plainly stated. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbleth, lest the Lord see it and it displeased, and be displeased, and turn away his anger from him. You want your enemy, you actually want him dealt with, don't be gloating. Always continue to be merciful. Don't rejoice. Don't go, oh, that happened to the right guy. Couldn't it happen to a better guy? Ha! We all have a tendency to that, don't we? Well, come on, you guys admit it. We all do. We go, yeah, yeah. Even if we don't say it, we think it. No, you gotta, it's not good. It's not good for us. Not good for us. We need to always want mercy. In verse 19, fret not thyself because of evil man. Okay, we say fret not in our English Bible. The commentators, well, they say that the Hebrew word here is actually stronger than the way we use the word fret. We use fret like, like we'll bite our nails and get all worked up. Fretting. No, they're actually getting all worked up and losing your mind over something. That's the more of the fretting in the Hebrew. Fret not yourself. Don't be losing your mind screaming at the television. Does anybody scream at the TV? Do you find yourself yelling at the TV? They can't hear you. It's a waste of time. They can't hear you. You want to really do something, go run for your school board or something like that. Get on the school board, get on your city council, get involved in politics, but yelling at those images on the screen doesn't do anything. You get really worked up. Fret not yourself because of evil man, neither be thou envious at the wicked, for there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out. So that's one of those deals where I find myself coping with the current insanity by looking at it going, oh, payday's coming. Instead of getting really losing my mind at things, I can just, honestly, I can go, you know what? Nobody gets away with anything. The Lord's coming back. He's coming. I've been saying lately, God is on the throne, and Christ is on the way. That helps me. Verse 21, my son, fear thou the Lord and the King. When he speaks of fear, you know that is synonymous with respect. Fear thou the Lord and the King, and meddle not with them that are given to change. That is really actually here Solomon is talking about revolution. Now, that doesn't mean that all revolutions are wrong, but there is rebellion in the hearts of people, and there's always somebody going, no, we need to overturn the whole system. No, don't get involved in that. Meddle not with them who are given to change, for their calamity shall rise suddenly, and who knoweth the ruin of them both. Oh, guys, I've been, in these days in which we live, I keep living with the concern that somebody's going to start a revolution. What we need is a revival, not a revolution. And the thing about a revolution is the awful calamity that comes, the awful destruction, the bloodshed, the terror, the loss, the pain. You know, the last time this nation went to war with itself, in those few years, 3/4 of Americans, young men, were dead. Hundreds of thousands from both sides. So I continue to pray, even for those who are, there may be people that think we need to upset the whole system. No, we need to be an influence. We need to be an influence and influence this thing. I absolutely believe we've got to work with what we've been given by those who already did the revolution, already died, already shed their blood and paid. They already they handed us what they did not have. Honestly, their calamity shall rise suddenly. Who knoweth the ruin of them both? I continue to pray for a revival, and that's what we need to pray for and work toward. God have mercy, let there be no revolution. Some fool is going to start one. And then everybody's going to be caught up in either you support it or you oppose it. And that's the troubling thing about the days in which we live in. You know anything about the calamity that could be? Verse 23, these things also belong to the wise. It's not good to have respect to persons in judgment. Real wisdom treats everybody equally, not respecting persons. See, that wisdom, that is what produced the system that America established, where all men are seen as created equal. All of us have equal standing before the law. He that saith to the wicked, thou art righteous, him shall the people curse, nations shall abhor him. But to them that rebuke him shall be delight, and a good blessing shall come upon them. Every man shall kiss his lips that giveth the right answer. Well, that makes me not want to give a right answer at all, ever. But you do understand the expression, right? I don't want any man kissing my lips. It is translated this way in the English Standard Version: whoever gives an honest answer kisses the lips. I'm going to go with that. But an honest answer, even if it stings, even if it's not what somebody wants to hear, ultimately, you'll be thanked for it. And verse 27, prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterward build thine house. So this is a verse that tells us we've got to have priorities, and you've got to think them through. Prepare thy work without. If you just go, I'm going to go build the house, well, you might starve to death, while you're in the process of building that thing. You've got work to do outside. You've got to establish that first. Prepare thy work without. And he's talking about you've got to make sure the field is planted before you go throwing up your shelter. And verse 28, be not a witness against thy neighbor without cause, and deceive not with thy lips. Say not, I will do to him as he hath done to me. Don't even say that. I will render to the man according to his work. Don't do it. That's not the way of wisdom. That's not the way of God. And he concludes with this warning about entropy. Entropy happens. Everything breaks down. Verse 30 says, I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. So those are connected. Lazy equals stupid. The stupid man is lazy, the lazy man is stupid. So I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. He's clueless. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. And then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. This is what I learned from this, what I saw. Yet a little sleep and a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, and so shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. It'll come like a thief. So you guys understand that expression? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. We're designed by God to need sleep. This is not a verse that tells us that we can't sleep at night. God designed us to do that. He wants us to rest. Psalm 127, it says, in vain do you stay up late, eat the bread of sorrows, for so he gives his beloved sleep. Yes, the Lord intends for us to sleep. But the slothful, the absolute sluggard, he sleeps too much. He likes his comfort. He's got a happy place under his blankie. It's a happy, happy place. It's almost like, it's like the place where we all started. It's like inside of the womb, in the happy place. That was nice in there. It was warm and cushiony. And we recreate the womb with our blanket, dark and warm. Oh, we wish we had a little amniotic fluid. We could perfect temperature in there, 96.8. You got to sort of get born again, as it were, kick the covers off and step out into the world where it's cold, where it's hot, and it's hard, and there's adversity. If you don't, it's going to cost you. Poverty will come. It creates worse things. Have you known people who have worked harder at not working than they would have if they just worked? The laziness doesn't make anything better. Laziness makes everything harder. Everything. So the guy that we're warned about, let me just tell you again from the English Standard Version, is the sluggard. Solomon goes, I went by the field of the sluggard, and by the vineyard of the man lacking sense. There's only a guy lacking sense would let this entropy happen. It would let the wall be broken down, and the thorns and the nettles and all of those things that should have been dealt with. There's no maintenance, no pruning. He's lazy. Behold, it was all overgrown with thorns, covered with nettles. A stone wall was broken down. I saw and considered it, and I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty comes upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man.
Hey, thanks for listening. We pray that the Word of God will speak to your heart as you meditate on it. If we can help you grow, or if you have any questions, you can visit us at our website at ccbangor.org. Give us a phone call at area code 207-991-9555, or you can shoot us an email at office@ccbangor.org. I'm Jessica Grace Fleming, and on behalf of my dad and Calvary Chapel Central, Maine, we wish you grace and peace.